Hello, BSC6003 students. Dr. Conway here for Lesson 3. Couple of reminders before I go any further is that you have your quiz to do tomorrow before 11:30. Don't forget to do that because that will add up as we go through. All right. So today I just want to, I've also sent you a basic outline for your part 1 of your deliverable for your business case. So make sure you look at that as well and try to follow that as closely as you can. So today we're going to talk about a little bit more of the types of arguments that have to be made. There's some key points I want to make about that. Arguments to be made in your business case. I mean, one of the things that you'll find when you go into the labor market is one of the most striking things you'll find is that how little thought is actually being put into energy management in a lot of organizations today. That's changing rapidly because of the of greenhouse gas mitigation, climate change fight, rising energy costs with respect to carbon taxes, and so on. But still, managers tend to spend more time focusing on things like human resources and IT and things like that, but take a much less sophisticated and well-developed treatment of energy management, which is amazing because so much can be saved through proper energy management. A lot of other objectives can be achieved. So one of the key things that you have to do as a young energy manager, an energy manager starting in the field, is learning how to make concise arguments as to why energy management should become a more sophisticated element of business management within an organization. And this goes beyond just bad energy management wasting money on energy bills when that money could be used more productively elsewhere. But it also it involves moving away from purely seeing energy as a cost, but also seeing energy as a strategic consideration. Okay. So, and one of the things that has to be done is developing systematic ways to implement energy management as a key cost and reliability consideration as much as HR and IT is. And the computer doesn't work, people scream. When the right staff can't be found, organizations suffer. Well, we have to get it to a point where people also see that energy management or energy inappropriately managed is also a significant consideration for any organization, particularly as energy costs continue to go up. And this must be clearly spelled out in a number of different areas within an organization. Certainly every major organization, any organization of any size, a couple of hundred staff members, personnel up, should have some kind of an energy management plan and should have some record of doing energy management business cases to continue to improve their energy efficiency and competitiveness. Okay. Now, for some organizations that have no experience in dealing with energy management, this is going to seem like a foreign topic to them. You'd be surprised how many organizations you'll walk into and you start talking to them about energy management and they just, you'll get blank stares. They don't understand the pure concept of it and what can be, how much money can be saved and the other benefits that can come from proper energy management. I mean, comparative research demonstrates that on average a business can reduce its annual energy cost by 20% through improving energy efficiency and energy management. 20% for some large organizations that use a lot of energy, for hospitals, large manufacturing plants, large buildings, these kinds of things can add up to a lot of money over a 10, 15, 20-year period. And so, but because some managers have become so used to the fact of just appealing to government for preferential rates a certain time of the day and just paying the energy bills at the end of the month and not thinking about ways that they can save on the energy in their own facility, in their own building, in their own plant, and doing it in a more sophisticated way becomes a significant challenge for the energy manager, getting people's minds wrapped around that. And the other thing that you'll encounter when you deal with a lot of companies is a lot of people interpret improvements in energy management as costing a lot of money. okay? And so therefore that lends importance to the business case, because capital outlays in the area of energy management, people need to see how that will return a benefit to them on the bottom line, okay? But it's important that when you go into an organization for the first time, that you don't talk about, very large and ambitious energy management initiatives necessarily, but first you might decide to lead in with things that are relatively low cost, or what I call low-hanging fruit initiatives, which don't necessarily need to cost a tremendous amount of money, but can return substantial benefits for relatively low amounts of money. Okay, and it's not unusual to see companies that can save 5-10% with minimal capital expenditures. Maybe motion sensors, retraining staff to keep the garage doors closed, turning off the lights when there's nobody in that part of the building, whatever. Basic training can save 5-10%. 5-10% can add up for a lot of companies. Sure, not small companies maybe, but for medium to large companies can save a substantial amount of money. And in areas where more substantial investment is involved, obviously you're getting into capital expenditures, therefore you're getting into the need for business cases, all right? But we have to realize that costs are not the only thing that come into play in energy management these days, all right? I mean, sure, we want to save money, because any money that we save can be directed to achieving the organizational objectives of that organization. Remember, you're always linking energy management to organizational objectives. And in a lot of cases, you are, you're showing the savings that can be achieved without compromising reliability of energy and in production processes and so on, can be a substantial addition to achieving the organizational objective. For example, when hospitals become 10-15% more energy efficient, they use a lot of energy. That's a lot of money that can be redirected into expensive hospital diagnostic equipment or whatever the case may be. So drawing these links continues to be critically important, as we discussed in the last lesson. But in addition to cost-saving benefits, there are benefits of anticipating future energy price increases, getting the organization ready for an escalation in energy costs, like, for example, in the carbon tax. You can use energy management to enhance productivity and competitiveness. Okay, how well are we doing it with energy management relative to our competitors? Does that allow us to sell our product at a high quality but relatively less cost than a competitor? These types of things are all linked. Obviously, as we get into greenhouse gas mitigation initiatives by government, including regulations, taxes, and charges, anticipating those, preparing for those, developing a business case that says, for this increase, we're going to achieve that. By the time the government gets to its total cost that it wants to apply to carbon, we need to be ready to minimize the impact of that on our competitiveness and on our operations. And of course, these days, you cannot underestimate the extent to which, having things communicated to the public about being a green and responsible company really improves corporate brand. I mean, the data now is overwhelming that people like to buy green products. The best young talent likes to work for green companies. Responsible companies, the biggest ones, are all selling the fact that they're trying to do good things for the environment. They're trying to green their brand. And to not do so leaves your organization in a significant competitive disadvantage. All right? And also, moving in this area, you have to talk about other benefits like improving relations with stakeholders and so on. Okay, so when you do a business case, you're not just dealing with the current cost profile and saving money for the organization. You're doing a business case that also tries to anticipate the future needs of the organization going forward, tries to use energy management to contribute to building the company's brand of being a responsible corporation, acting on climate change, acting on other aspects of the environment, improving relations with stakeholders, developing alliances, co-marketing initiatives with NGOs. It's endless, but you'll see that all the best organizations, the best companies that focus on energy management tap into all of these aspects. And that's why you see organizations like Maple Leaf Foods and Loblaws and all these organizations making commitments to be zero emission companies or whatever into the future. All right. And our net zero companies, I should say, into the future. And it's because they anticipate that these are not only cost considerations, but they're also branding and marketing consideration and partnership considerations with governments and with other stakeholders. And the other factor that you have to take into consideration is, thinking outside the box, right? We have to think about not only becoming more efficient with traditional energy sources, but also becoming more adept at identifying opportunities for using alternative energy sources. And by that I mean renewable energy sources. And we recognize that there continues to be barriers in adopting this in a huge way. But there's enough evidence out there of being able to adopt more and more of it as it becomes more cost competitive, renewables relative to oil and gas, and that we can make changes, and these changes can be planned over a 10, 15, 20 year period and phased in, and making a solid business case for that is a skill that is going to be increasingly in demand. Okay. And governments are going to, once we get over this period of continued denial, we're going to see that governments will continue to institute new incentives and measures for bringing in renewables or clean energy sources into business operations. And when that happens, businesses need to be up to speed. They need to know what's going on with this. They need to have planned it in advance, and overcoming the psychological barriers of moving to renewables and realizing that renewables are becoming more and more reliable every year, storage capacity and so on. Okay. So while reliability of renewables is still quite sort of variable out there in the marketplace, we're seeing new technologies emerging all the time that make these sources of energy more reliable, more consistent, and more suitable to organizations that require a steady stream of reliable energy. And these include technologies like energy storage technologies and so on and so forth, which I'm sure you've learned about in some of your other courses, but they're becoming increasingly popular and increasingly viable, both financially and in terms of reliability to the organization, and making the organization's brand more palatable with consumers out there in the marketplace, because consumers in the marketplace are increasingly demanding green. If there's a choice, they'll go for the green company. The data is overwhelming on that now. As long as the cost profile of the products doesn't deviate too much, consumers are willing to pay a premium for certain types of products and services that can exhibit green credentials, including, of course, when you're dealing with green credentials, you're dealing with energy management being a major factor there. Not the only one, obviously. There's all kinds of other things like product inputs, industrial byproducts, waste streams. All those factors come into making controlling all those factors comes into making a green company. But in the age of climate change, energy management is going to be one of the key factors there. Okay. So when you're developing your business case, obviously I want you to think about cost, but I also want you to think about some of the other strategic benefits, the branding benefits and so on, that a corporation can benefit from. Now, not in all cases are we going to be able to monetize all these things, but we should be flagging them, educating managers on the benefits that go beyond simply the electricity bill, the power bill at the end of the month. But go into being more competitive, keeping up with competitors, greening the brand, building better partnerships, better receptivity and cooperation with government regulators. All of these different factors come into play when you're dealing with more sophisticated energy management. Now, in a lot of organizations you're going to go into, they won't be there yet, but the larger the organizations will be. The larger organizations will already have sophisticated energy management teams working with them or for them, okay? But as you get into medium-sized businesses, it will be a patchwork quilt. There'll be some that will be more sophisticated than others, and as you get into energy management, you'll quickly learn that as we go on. So when you're thinking about your business case, of course we're thinking about costs today, but we're also thinking about costs in the future. We're also thinking about branding. We're also thinking about being responsible corporations, selling our brand as being a green company, a company that's that is doing its part for the community. All right. So keep all of that in the mind as we go through developing our business case. All right. Don't forget to do your quiz. You'll have an outline for part 1 of your deliverable. We don't have a call this week, but check your lesson plan, and I will be posting to calendar Zoom calls when we do have weeks for those calls. Okay. Take care for now. Bye bye now.